is Jimmy Bartel.
Saturday, Ed, shapes as three of the biggest games you're going to see. You know, 6 star-studded teams go at it, so that's where we're going to look at it. We're going to go to the first one, and that's Collingwood v Port Adelaide at the MCG, Jimmy. And Collingwood, they've won their last 2, and Nick Dacos spoke about how they've got back to their best.
Yeah, it's something we pride ourselves on, and as I said, it's the foundation of our game, our pressure, so we'll continue to bring that for weeks to come, and it's something we really practice throughout the weeks. I think we're heading in the right direction for sure, and we're starting to see the DNA of our game come to fruition.
And take a look at that DNA. So round 0 to 2, so they played opening round, lost their first 3 games. They were ranked 12th for pressure, where they were outstanding last year, winning the premiership. But in the last 2 rounds that they've played, Jimmy, they've gone to number 1.
Yeah, and especially early in games, Lloydie. Look at the pressure they're applying and the players coming back into screen. When we were highlighting the Pies in the first couple of rounds, we kept seeing players drifting away from the contest. Look at each time there's the next player coming in, they're swarming their direct opponent, and they're causing turnovers, which then allows them to get that fast footy moving forward.
Yeah, that's just how they play their best. You think of those guys like McCreery and Bobby Hill and Mychek even as a forward. That's how they have to play the game, because the gaps got closer in terms of the other teams. Well, Port Adelaide, their midfield, I think it's far more powerful than Collingwood's. And I asked the question, can Collingwood cope with the Port mids?
Yeah, they're dynamic, they're faster foot, but when they go, they all go. And so have a look at this. This was just a contest back near you there, Lloydie, only about 2 seconds ago, and every one of the Port Adelaide players has gotten on the right side of their Freo opponents. And watch when this plays out. Look at the power. They're all joining in. They're leaving their direct opponents behind. Freo's got a young, good midfield, but this is how they open you up and really get you scrambling in defence. Horne-Francis, another one blasting through the front of the stoppage. Rosie, dynamic through it. So they've got some real foot speed and power out of the contest.
So how do you think guys like, Tom Mitchell, Scott Pendlebury will go? Who are some of the guys, apart from De Goey, that goes in it? Does Nick Dacos have to go back in there, or would you keep him half back?
I'd keep him a half back, just because we saw the results when he went back to half back. But you just have to take care of that initial contest. From you to me away from the footy, you've got to impact it and bring the next one in to cut out the release.
I think, because I believe Port's midfield is better, I'd send Willem Drew to Jordan De Goey and say, if you can take out Jordan De Goey for us, well, then we put a lot of pressure on these other midfielders. So I just looked at him against Hawthorn. He had 31 disposals, kicked the goal. Here, they're not putting any time into Jordan De Goey, and he's so powerful. If you allow him the run and the speed to go, he will just cut you to ribbons. So if Willem Drew can take him out, that's a big win, but you're setting a task for a Collingwood player.
I've been given the job of finding the big job on the other side, and he was just in that edit. I want to highlight Connor Rosie here. If you allow him to get on the goal side of you and don't physically force him into the contest, this is what happens. Brayshaw is a super player, defensively minded when he doesn't have the footy. Rosie gets the jump on him. 3 minutes to go, the game's in the balance. Look who bobs up here and kicks the ball to Horne-Francis, who ends up kicking the winner here for Port Adelaide. You've got to be physical. So I'm giving the job to Jack Crisp to be this guy, but he's got to be on the back shoulder. If you don't win the footy, got to get him in and keep him in the contest. Again, we'll see another instant where he gets out. Look at it coming through here. Just near you, Lloydie. Who gets on it first and kicks a goal? Dynamic. You've got to have your wits about you. Crisp is disciplined because he's played a lot at half-back and he's got the physical nature to go with Rosie.
I know it's the MCG, but I think Port Adelaide can win this game, Jimmy, so I'm going with the power. What about you?
The Pies played Port really well at the G. I think the Pies.
Okay. You, Ed?
Good stuff. All right,
Who are
boys.
you tipping, Ed?
Hey?
Who are you tipping?
Well, I'm the only one who's tipped the Pies the last couple of weeks. You blokes have got a... What about McCreery? Could he go into the midfield and do that tag?
Yeah, I think as a pinch hitter, I think he could be something to add that speed to it, yeah.
Good on you, boys. We're going to come back, as we said, it's Super Saturday this week. That's going to be the attention of the Medallion Club when we return on Footy Classified.
The Coleman medal, the Norm Smith medal, Brownlow medal is Jimmy Bartel. Thank you, Lloyd.
What a game this is going to be. Carlton and the GWS Giants is a twilight game at Marvel on Saturday afternoon. And Carlton, for all their dominance, for all their stars, Curnow and Mackay playing in the forward line, they're actually not marking the ball as well as they'd like. We look at some of the numbers. Marks inside 50, they're ranked 12th. I think they jump into each other too often, as we've touched on a couple of times over the last year or so, Jimmy. Goal for percentage from marks, they're actually ranked 18th. So I think they have to work too hard for the goals they get, and kick inside 50 retention is ranked 8th. So it's a problem for them. And if they're not marking the footy, well, then this is where the GWS Giants are at their absolute best.
Yeah, because the Giants can absolutely sweep the footy away from you rapidly. And if it's a shallow entry as well, Lloydie, which we often look at, is inside 50s can tell a bit of a lie, but that's an inside forward 50, but it's not an effective one. And this comes back to your retention number. The Giants in particular, they can sweep off halfback with Whitfield, Ash, everyone starts to join in. And look at that, the game is completely opened up. If you're the Carlton defence, all you're doing is scrambling.
Oh, and they are just the best at it in the game. It's the biggest weapon in the game, I think, the Giants off halfback. So Carlton need to mark, and they also need to pressure, Jimmy.
Yeah, and if these small forwards aren't going to get involved and hit the scoreboard, you've actually got to apply that pressure. And you mentioned retention. Part of having the retention is these guys getting at the feet and applying that inside forward 50 tackles. Between the three of them, Durden did a little bit of work there with 3 tackles inside forward 50, but the other 2, you've got to get involved more because it slows the game down, gives your mids and your backs a chance to catch up and defend.
So, Jimmy, where do you see a strength for Carlton in this one?
So this was a big highlight for me last week for Carlton versus Adelaide. They scored 54 points from stoppage, and I love this teamwork. Open up the stoppage, you've got a clear advantage with your big bodies. This is Hollands who starts a wing, Kennedy pulls out. Look at the space it creates. You get forward side. This is how you can retain the ball because you've got space inside forward 50. You're either Curnow on the short or you take the deeper one with Mackay. That's working really well as a team unit. They're ranked 1 and 2 with scores from forward half stoppages. It's a real opportunity for the Blues.
So the Giants are flying. They haven't lost a game yet, but I still think they've got areas of improvement. So this is where their pressure was under Adam Kingsley last year, 3rd. I think they're doing a lot on pure talent at the moment. You know, they're playing a little bit like the Harlem Globetrotters, 12th in terms of their pressure. And I didn't like a few things that I saw on the week, and I thought they played like they had, you know, they knew they were going to win, and they started just flicking handballs around in a way that got them into trouble, Jimmy. So it's a must-watch for me against Carlton. That I thought they should have put St Kilda away big time, and in the end they only won by a point in the end. So I reckon they were a bit too cute.
Lockie Whitfield touched on this post-game. He said, our attack's been really good. Our defence has got to improve. A lot of injuries for both sides. Taylor and Cornelio out. We saw all the hamstring injuries for Carlton.
Yeah.
I'm clearly going to go the Giants, Lloydie.
Yeah, and I think Carlton in a tight one. The other one should be a ripper. Brisbane and Geelong up there at the Gabba. And talk about Brisbane getting back their DNA. I thought their win against Melbourne was as good as any win for the whole season, and it was due to this pressure. This was mostly in the first quarter. They overwhelmed Melbourne at their own game.
We touch on this with Collingwood. It's players coming back into the screen. It's relentless pressure. They're sticking tackles here. Melbourne aren't breaking them. They're forcing the turnover. That's the want for the contest, and that's why we had so many stoppages and clearances to start the game against the D's on the Thursday night. Look at this. This is a real desire to put pressure on the opposition. You mightn't get the results in the first quarter, but as the game rolls on, it opens up for you.
They've been dying to play at 4 quarters, the Brisbane Lions. They played it, and Chris Fagan said it was one of the best games he's seen in team play in years. There's 2 players we want to look at Geelong, and teams don't know how to play them. And why are teams letting these 2 players roam free, Jimmy? I'll start with Jeremy Cameron, and you can finish with Brian Myers. So Jeremy Cameron, here he is. Like, he's getting up nice and high, but there's no one checking his run, bumper barring him. Even like you could let him go, but pick him up on the way back inside forward 50. Yes, he has a fantastic engine. And here he is again. Like, this is, I know North Melbourne were poor on the weekend. Young players playing on him. But again, there's just a free, clear passage. His player gets behind him. I'm really going to be fascinated to say, is it a Ryan Lester type that takes him up the ground? Then Harris Andrews waits for him on the way back. There's some of the things they can do. And Brian Myers is another one who gets under the guard every week.
Must be fun being Myers. You go out and no one goes near you. And don't get beaten by what you know. We saw him here. He's nearly averaging 3 direct goal assists a game. So if you're Brisbane, this guy is going to go a long way to the Cats winning. So get physical with him. No one's actually ever tested him being up the ground, of blocking his run, pushing him outside forward 50. Takes a little bit of discipline, and you probably don't get rewarded with the stats or the great highlights. But if you can slow him down, 1 goal assist a game or none, go a long way to the Lions winning.
But to their credit, they work their backsides off and run that hard, so it's easier said than done. Cameron Rayner, best man on the ground last week, but I want to put to you, is as a midfield weapon, is this a one-off where he dined out, or can he do it across a whole season?
I hope he can, because he's exciting to watch. And Lloydie, I saw on Thursday night his ability to come up as the high half forward, so his front side of the stoppage. It'll actually ask the Cats a lot of questions. The Cats love to sag off if a forward goes into the stoppage. If he starts winning at the front of the stoppage or coming through a centre bounce, they've got a big decision to make. They pull apart their defence, which will protect them against Hipwood and Cameron and Danaher, or do you go in and take him on at the best of times inside the contest?
There's been some special number 3s at the Cats, Jim.
Brandon Parfitt is a favourite. He does wear the number 3, and I think he's back to his footy in the grand final, and it's tough, it's hard-nosed. He's averaging 9 tackles a game, but he's got this. He's got composure as well. I'd love to see him go to the Dunkley matchup. 2 physical beasts. He's actually been part of the Cats revival. They wanted him to really pop last year. I think he's back being fit. Fast feet, but again, that tough edge to him.
You wonder if Danger and Guthrie were there, whether he would have got a game. So he's taking his chance.
He is taking his chance. I think the Lions, though, at the Gabba are very difficult to beat.
Yeah, Lions to me too, Ed.